putting Rabbi here. I'm changing
Okay,
seats.
so
I'm changing seats.
I just want to welcome everybody to the Dr. Polly Etkind Hochberg lecture series that Rabbi Einsidler kindly does for us several times a year. It's really good to see you. I hope that you're all well. I hope that you all get the vaccine soon. I really want to thank Evelyn Mintz, who took on the organization of doing this event. And of course, to Rabbi Einsidler for giving us a wonderful lecture. I also really think we should take a minute to thank the rabbis, Rabbi Schneier, Rabbi Einsidler, Rabbi Goldschmidt, Cantor Helfgott, and Cantor Benny for all the things that they have been doing throughout the pandemic. And that also includes the school, the day school, the religious school, and the Schola. They have just kept on going. And I really think that providing continuity during this difficult time is paramount. So thank you to them. And I think we will, Rabbi Einsidler, whenever you're ready. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Claudie. And also I want to thank Evelyn Mintz for her assistance and everybody who was involved in making this work, because I know nothing about these computers. Anyway, next week, we are ushering in the Tu B'Shvat, the New Year's for trees. So we thought it'd be nice just to have an overview of what the Torah has to say about the trees and, of course, Eretz Israel. If you start from the beginning of creation, we see that the third day, God created trees. And there were two famous trees that were in this particular garden. What were they? Good answer. What were they? These two trees that are in the Garden of Eden?
The apple tree.
Apple tree. Apple tree.
True.
The Eighth Kaiyem, the tree of knowledge, and Eighth Kaiyem, and the tree of life. And you know, they were told they could eat fruit from any tree except from those two, but they didn't listen to the warnings, and because of that, they had to be removed from the Garden of Eden. Anyway, the trees were created on the third day. Next time you see trees is by Tevat Noach. When God wanted to destroy the whole universe because they were acting corruptly, and he excuse me, and he instructed Noach the following: gopher, construct a ark made from gopher wood. And according to our commentators, gopher is a species of the cedars, and it's quite large, 300 cubits in length. If usually a cubit is considered 2 feet, so that means you're talking about a structure that is 600 feet long, 50 cubits, 100 feet high, and 30 cubits in, 30 cubits in width and 30 cubits in height. So, and that was able to save Noah and his immediate family. Later on, we see, going to Abraham now. When those 3 angels visited Abraham and invited them in, it says in the verse in the Torah over there, he invited them in and said, why don't you sit under the tree? Because in those days, well, even today, we use the tree for shade. And also, Abraham used it to serve them, because he was a big believer in Achnasas Orchim and welcoming guests and supplying them with food. And the whole purpose was to start speaking about monotheism. And in fact, that's what happened. They would go ahead and ask Abraham, well, thank you so much for this wonderful food. And Abraham would say, what? You don't have to thank me. The food doesn't come from me. The food comes from God. And they said, what's God? And they would question him. And by doing so, through his hospitality, he was able to start a conversation dealing with monotheism. of course, is very, in those days, very few people believed in monotheism. The world basically believed in paganism. So here was a way, so through the fruits of the tree, whatever he served, or he was able to discuss with them monotheism, and that's the way he was. In his way, he was able to spread the monotheistic beliefs. And by the way, there are two words in Hebrew, eitz and eitzah. Eitz, of course, is the tree, and eitzah means advice or counsel. So the reason why those two words in Hebrew are similar, because that was the perfect place to discuss problems of the world or whatever was taking place then. You sat under the tree and gave eitzah, gave the advice and counsel for a particular discussion. Excuse me. Another thing we find later on by Abraham is that he planted Vayita Eshel. He planted an Eshel. Exactly how to translate Eshel is up for grabs, but our rabbis say that it's a acronym for three words. The Aleph of Eshel, Aleph stands for Achila. Abraham used this particular Eshel for feeding people, like we mentioned, with the angels that visited him. Shin, Shtia, for drinks, and Lamed, Lina. They could sleep over, or some say he escorted them after they had their meal. So, and that was the thing he kept on for many years. Eshel, to provide food and drinks and place for people to stay. Abraham was known for his hospitality. So by doing so, he used the fruits and the vegetables and whatever he had in those days to help people and to introduce them again to monotheism, which is very important in Abraham's life. Skipping to Yaakov, find that after Yaakov found out that Yosef was in Egypt, and he wanted to visit Yosef before he passed away. But before he went, he didn't go directly to Egypt, but the Torah said he went to Beersheba. Now, why did he go there? According to our sages, it seems that there were cedar trees growing in Beersheba, and he knew that in the future, the Jews would need cedar trees. Does anybody know why did they need cedar trees? Because a lot of that wood was needed to
They
construct.
built the Holy Temple.
At that time it wasn't a holy temple. What was it then? Mishkan. It was a tabernacle, and the tabernacle, in the construction of the tabernacle, used atzei shita, which was a species of the cedar wood. So Yaakov was preparing already for the eventual construction of the tabernacle after they would depart from Egypt. Right now, that would be after Bnei Yisrael did depart from Egypt. We mentioned that they had to build a Mishkan, and if you look in the Torah, as I mentioned before, it was a Kaiyem that needed acacia wood, which was a species of the cedar trees. So again, the problem was, where did they get it? I mean, obviously, you have Yaakov might have brought down some, but they needed much more wood than that. So we're told when the Bnei Yisrael, when they went down to Egypt, they planted cedar trees, and they were there for this slavery, we're told by tradition, was 210 years. So after 210 years, I assume many cedars grew, and they cut them down before they departed from Egypt, knowing that they need all this wood for the construction of the Mishkan. And not only that, for the Big Day Kahuna, for the priestly garments, they need linen. So of course the linen had to come from the flax that grows. So it was very essential. Things that growing from the ground were essential in the construction of the Mishkan, tabernacle, and also with some of the garments that the high priest and the ordinary priest would wear in the service in the temple. At that time was the Mishkan, the tabernacle. The Torah mentions any mitzvahs dealing with with trees. It says in Pashas Kedoshim, "V'chisavo el haaretz u'natatem kol it ma'achol." And the Torah states that when Bnei Israel entered Eretz Israel, there was a mitzvah to plant trees in Eretz Israel. That was a mitzvah. Tanta meitz machal. Connected with the planting was a mitzvah of Orlah. You know what Orlah is? What is Orlah? No one. Okay. For the first 3 years, the fruit of that is produced by the trees was prohibited for anyone to eat. The Ramban says the reason for that is that the first 3 years, the fruit is unhealthy. So we had a mitzvah not to consume any fruit from the first 3 years. After the fourth year, they were able to eat from the fruit. Another commentary said that the reason why the first 3 years was prohibited is because what day did we say that trees were created by God? On the third year. That was what another commentary said. But they question that. That doesn't make sense. If the third year the trees were created, so it should be the first 2 years you should not be able to eat the fruit, but on the third year should be able to use this because the trees were created on the third year. So some of the commentators answer the following. They said, yes, it is true that the trees were created on the third year, but they were created only with the potential to produce fruit. But they needed sunlight for that. When was the sun created? On the fourth day. So you needed the sun on the fourth day to have the fruit grow. So therefore, the Torah says for the first 3 years, you cannot have fruit, you cannot eat from the fruit, to remind us that the trees were created on the third year, but we can't eat from it until the fourth year because the sun was not created as at that point. Because those are the two interpretations why the fruit is prohibited to be eaten for the first 3 years. Now, it's all mitzvos that are stated in the Torah that pertains to the land of Israel. Let's say there's a mitzvah of truma, which means a certain portion, anywhere between 1/40th to 1/60th of the yield was given to the Kohen. That was truma, and a certain tithing, that the first tithe in the Levi, and so on. So all these mitzvos only pertained to Eretz Israel. However, there's one exception, Orlah. All of which is for the first 3 years, you cannot eat the fruit. So if you have a Jewish farmer in the United States, or wherever it may be outside of Israel, who plant a fruit tree, even though he's not in Israel, the first 3 years, he's not allowed to eat from the fruit. That's the only mitzvah that pertains to the land of Israel, that pertains to all lands. Well, let's say the other mitzvah pertains to Israel, Shemitah, the sabbatical year. Every 7 years, we have many farmers in Israel observing it today. They do not plow or sow or anything harvest during that particular year. Really, from the Torah, there's no prohibition because since they were exiled from the land, but midrabanan, politically, it's accepted. The midrabanan, one should observe the mitzvah of Shemitah in Eretz Israel. Outside Eretz Israel, there's no mitzvah like that to do Shemitah. A Jewish farmer outside Israel does not have to observe the mitzvahs of Shemitah, the sabbatical year. So, but Orlah, like I said, is the only exception. Orlah, if a Jewish farmer plants a fruit tree, even if he's in America or any place outside Eretz Israel, he's not permitted to eat from that fruit for the first 3 years. That was a special halacha, l'Moshe Sinai, an exception to the rule, a special ruling that God gave to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not written in the Torah. It's from the oral tradition, but that's an exception to the rule. Okay. Let me see that. You know, David HaMelech, going out to skipping little years of history, he had a rebellious son. Who was the name, the name of David's rebellious son?
Absalom.
Oh, very good. Absalom. Okay. So he rebelled against his father, as I mentioned, and he had long hair. He was a Nazarite, by the way. So he had long hair, and somehow he was going through some forest of some sort, and his hair got entangled in the branches of a tree. And Yoav, who happened to be the general at that time of David's army, went ahead and killed him. So we have unfortunately, you find the incident of a tree, which enabled David, not really wasn't David, enabled the Yoav, the general of David's army, to kill Absalom. Okay. All right. Now, there's a very famous passage in the Torah which deals with the 7 species of Israel. And these are the 7 species. Eretz, Chita, Usora, land of wheat and barley, Begefen Uteinav Rimon, and grapes, and figs, and pomegranates, Eretz Leshem Udavash, a land having olive oil and dates. Now, these were considered the best produce, best products that Israel produced. And every one of these products relate to mitzvos. For example, wheat. What mitzvos do we have in the Torah that relate to wheat? Anyone?
The Omer, after the Omer, counting the Omer. That's Shavuos. But Shavuos, isn't it the first of wheat?
Right, that's wheat.
Right.
Right.
Leave the corner of your fields and.
That's true too. But that about wheat and barley, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Or there is a what it's called lechem haponim. There used to be this showbread that was baked every single week, and that was put on the table in the tabernacle. In the at that time, it was either tabernacle, or eventually the holy temple, and it was changed every single week. It was it really wasn't even a bread. It was a matzah. It was like a matzah made from wheat, and it was baked on Friday, put out on the table on Saturday, and the old bread was taken out and distributed to the Kohanim. Still fresh. That was also a miracle. Here you had a certain bread that lasted for a week, and it was still very fresh, and was distributed to the Kohanim to eat. So that was lechem haponim, the showbread that was on the table, on the shulchan, whether it was a tabernacle or during the holy temple period. So, somebody mentioned it, barley. Barley, on the second day of Passover, there was a barley offering offered in the holy temple, because until that point, the products growing in Israel was not allowed to be eaten until the Omer was offered. The barley, the Omer is a measurement of barley that was offered in the holy temple, and that permitted the people to eat from the new harvest. Okay, that's Torah. Begefen. Oh yeah, that you should know. What mitzvahs to be used with wine, with grapes or wine. In fact, every day in the temple, what did they do with wine?
Sanctification.
Well, yeah, when they used to pour the wine libation, every single day, they used to use wine libation when they offered the daily sacrifice, which was in the morning or the late afternoon. So twice daily, it was usually wine, and as that's what Geffen is it was used for, at least in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. And later, of course, we use it for Kiddush or Seder, the 4 cups, and so on. So wine is used constantly by us. And in the Beit HaMikdash, wine libation was a very important mitzvah that was done during the offering of the daily sacrifice in the morning and in the late afternoon. And it was on every single day, including Shabbat. There was another type of libation, that's to do with the 7 species, that was only offered on Sukkot. What was the special libation that was offered on Sukkot?
Mayim.
Right, good. Nisuch HaMayim. The only time we have water libation is during the holiday of Sukkot. And why? Why do we do it on Sukkot? Why do we have wine? Why do we have water libation on Sukkot? Nisuch HaMayim. Because God judges. The mission brings down Rosh Hashanah that God judges how much water will be falling in Israel and throughout the world on Sukkot. And that's why, if you notice, at the end of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, we have a special prayer for Geshem, Tfilah Geshem, that we should have ample rain for this coming season, so we have enough water for the whole year. So that's why we have the only time we have water libation is on Sukkot. And they also have wine libation, but this is an additional water libation. And now we get to the next one. What was used as a mitzvah in the Beit HaMikdash that dealt with fig trees? This is a tough one. Anyone? Any guesses? Interestingly enough, they needed logs to put a fire on the altar. The best wood used for logs for the altar came from fig trees. Now, but it's interesting. You might ask the question, how could they cut down fig trees? It's a food tree.
It couldn't give any more figs. If it didn't give any more figs.
Hey, Karen, you're okay. You still remember. Very good. The fig tree it doesn't mean when they were giving figs, when it was producing figs, it means a fig tree that after a certain amount of years cannot produce figs anymore. Then they used to cut down the fig trees, and this wood was the best to be used on the altar, very flammable. It was considered to be the best. So that could be one particular mitzvah. The was used. The fig trees, the wood of the fig trees were used. Rimon is pomegranate. What do you know about a pomegranate? What's special about a pomegranate that I was speaking about? What?
Seeds.
How many seeds, Doctor?
Lots of seeds.
613.
How many is a lot of seeds?
613.
Yeah, they claim it's 613.
613.
Yeah, corresponding to the mitzvah of the Torah. At one time when I was teaching the class, I mentioned that the 613 seeds in a pomegranate or something about that. One student went ahead and bought a pomegranate, and she actually counted the seeds. He told me, Rabbi, it's my pomegranate at 623 seeds. True story. But we see that our sages were right. They said there's an amount of seeds in a pomegranate equals to the amount of mitzvahs we have, which is 613. Yeah. Olive oil, that's Zeishemen, Hazayit. What do we use? What was used in the Beit HaMikdash for olives? Need olives for?
To burn the candles, burn the lights.
What? The menorah, of course. They had to use olive oil, for the menorah. And it was not all olive oil. By the way,
first press.
Every olive oil. Alan remembers. Say it again, Alan.
First press.
First pressed. Yeah. The only oil that can be used for the menorah, the Beit HaMikdash, was the oil that came from the first pressing, not from the second. I think you could press that 3 times, at least in the time of the Talmud. The oil coming from the first pressing was permitted to be used in the menorah. Okay. And we have dates. Oh, we do have dates. When do we use dates in mitzvahs? Things coming from the date tree. I just should know, because we do it to this very day. What comes from a date tree that we use? every year.
Charoset.
No,
Well,
no.
no, you put honest, maybe you use it with dates. People use it for charoset. Okay, maybe that, yeah. Well, for the dates, well, it's not just dates. All besides the mitzvahs I discussed with the other produces of the 7 species, all of them were used for bikurim. What are bikurim?
Fruits.
Bikurim, what? The first fruits. First fruit. Bikurim, of course, were brought annually to the Beit HaMikdash on the holiday of Shavuot. From all the species that the Torah mentions of the 7 species, it was brought to the Beit HaMikdash starting from Shavuot, and they could bring it from Shavuot until Sukkot. That was ideally it would be brought on Shavuot, but if you couldn't make it for some reason, it could be brought until Sukkot. Some even say until Hanukkah. Now, when it comes to Shvat, we also discuss the mitzvahs dealing with the brachot, that we cite blessings before eating foods. And I just want to talk a little bit about those 6 special words that introduce every brachot that you recite. Baruch, Atah, Hashem, Elokeinu, Melech Olam, 6 words. Okay, and it's not so simple just to say these words. They have really great meaning behind it. Baruch means that God is the source of blessings for all the fruits and vegetables and all the food that we eat. God is the source. That's Baruch. Atah, we are directing our talk directly to God. It's an individual expression. You and I see God in different ways. There's no 2 people that see God in the same way. So, and that's why, and I want to go into the Shemon Esrei, where we always say, Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. It's the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Why do you say it 3 times? Maybe you say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But the thing, even in the Amidah, when we daven, we want to show that God had a special relationship, a personal relationship for each of our patriarchs. And so it is with all of us. We have a personal relationship with God. So with them say, Baruch Atah, whatever you are to me, you're the source of blessings. Then we mention 2 names of God when we recite the blessing. Hashem, Elokeinu. And there is a difference. What does Hashem mean when you say to Hashem? Elokeinu. Hashem means that he's merciful. And Elokeinu is with strict judgment. Sometimes it's merciful, sometimes it's strict judgment. But it's mingled together. So even when when he has to judge us in a strict way, he mingles it together with an element of compassion that it won't be so strict. And then we have Melech. Melech Olam. Melech. What does Melech mean?
King.
King. Okay. Melech. Now, the interesting, the morale brings down that if we would be wise enough, we'll be able to understand why certain Hebrew words have certain letters. And as an example, he brought the word Melech, king. He says, why are those letters used for the word king? And he said, well, what is the tallest letter of the alphabet?
Lamed.
Lamed. So therefore you have your Lamed. Now, king, when any leader of a country doesn't walk out alone, he has to have some guard, somebody to watch him on his right side, on his left side. So if you recite the alphabet, you will see that the 2 letters that surround the Lamed that represent the king is the Mem and the Chaf. So that's why Mem, the Lamed is the king, tallest, the most powerful one in the country, and the 2 letters that surround the Lamed as you recite the alphabet are his guardians, the guards who protect the leader, the king. And Ha'olam, king of the world, Olam is a very interesting word because, well, look at today, what's happening. So many things in this world that are concealed. We don't know why are these things happening? What's going on with this pandemic? Why is it happening? I mean, it seems like it's never ending. My gosh, it's nearly a year. So in the word ha'olam, or they should say the root letters of olam is ayin, lamet, mem. And another Hebrew word that uses those same letters is ne'elam. Ne'elam means concealed. There's so many things that happen in this world we don't understand. We cannot understand why did it happen. That's ha'olam, because maybe we're not supposed to know, but there's so many things that have happened throughout history, what's happening today, that we don't understand. See why? And if it already this thing is going on, my God, it's a year already, and it's still not. Doesn't seem it's like it's ending. Hope it will, God willing. So that's what the word Melech Olam, the King of the world. Yes, God is the King, but there's things that He does that we cannot understand, or maybe you're not supposed to know. So that's Ne'elam. It's concealed. But most of the time, we see His blessings when we enjoy the fruits and all the produce that comes from the land. And finally, one very important tree. It's the Eighth Kaiyem. What do we refer to an Eighth Kaiyem? But we have that song. Eighth Kaiyem. Interesting. Eighth Kaiyem. When we refer to the Torah in a symbolic way, we don't say Torah. We say it's It's Eighth Kaiyem. It's the tree of life. Because, especially for us as Jews, if we abide by the mitzvot of the Torah and perform them and take it very seriously, we'll be blessed with God's blessings. And it will be truly a tree of life, and we'll have an enjoyment and a lot of nachas from our whole family and our community and so on. And we'll be able to go back to the shul with this pandemic will end already, and we'll be able to see and sing together as a congregation. It's Chayyim, that truly is the tree of life. And we have to abide by its mitzvot, and we'll enjoy our Tu B'Shvat. Oh, one other thing that I mentioned one time. We have the Etro, Lulav and Etro, on Sukkos. There's a Hasidic word that says, on Tu B'Shvat, you have to pray that you'll have a nice, beautiful Etro, Gashen Esro. If you pray on Tu B'Shvat, God will bless us that all of you will have a nice Esro for Sukkos. God willing, that should already happen together in the shul, together as a congregation. And this time, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, every Shabbos, with a congregation, everybody together. And Mi'at Hashem, and we'll enjoy our holidays and Shabbat once more together. So have a good Tu B'Shvat. And if any questions, ask.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Only thank you.
Rabbi, thank you,
Rabbi.
Okay.
Rabbi, if you have a Seder for Tu B'Shvat, are you supposed to eat special foods?
Yeah. The Sfardim happened. I one time was thinking of having that. Maybe next time, maybe we could have that next Tu B'Shvat. That was Tu B'Shvat Seder. It's a beautiful Sfardim custom where they have similar to the Seder. They ask for questions dealing with Tu B'Shvat, and then they eat various fruits throughout this ceremony, and they have certain films and psalm saying something to think about. It's not an Ashkenazi custom, but I think it's a very beautiful Sephardic custom. They actually have a Tu B'Shvat Seder with four questions.
Does it have to be new fruits or just the customary seasonal fruits?
I think it has to, but I think it should be basically fruit that grow in Eretz Yisrael. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It should be. It'll have to be fruit from fresh direct.
Thank you, Rabbi Einsidler.
Okay.
It was wonderful as usual.
Thank you.
Next year, please God, we'll have fruit.
Einsidler.
We'll have fruit.
Thank
Yeah.
you very
We'll
much.
eat together.
Thank
here.
you, Rabbi.
Thank you
Say
all
hi.
for coming and for
Hi,
joining.
hi, you there, Herman?
Yeah.
This is what the.
Yeah,
I
Shikawa.
hope your late wife will have an aliyah in Guy Maiden, but so to be elevated in the merit of this class that we have.
Thank
you,
Yeah.
Rabbi.
Yes. Good.
Thank you again,
Okay.
Rabbi, and I hope to see everybody soon.
Okay, thank you.
So
Sir.
too.
Take care.
Thank you, Cody.
Night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Nice
Rabbi.
seeing all of you.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you, Rabbi.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Rabbi.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Hasta la vista.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye.
With her highest here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting, Rabbi.
Who's saying? Who's speaking now?
Celia. Celia now.
Oh, Celia, how? I don't
And
see
you know what?
well.
Alan
Oh,
knows
there you
all
are.
the
Yeah.
answers.
Hey, Alan, you're always hiding your wife.
Hey, Barbara.
Alan, let her in, Alan, let her in.
Yeah, you see what he does?
Hi, Dizzy.
Has a small little. You see what you? Okay. Yeah. Who's Izzy? What'd you say?
Yeah, Izzy Tapuchi.
Hi,
Hi,
Toby.
hi, Izzy.
Izzy. Ah, Tabuchia.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? Okay.
Wonderful. You were
Hi,
wonderful.
hi.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's to be Shvat today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Next week is Tu B'Shvat.
No,
next week.
next.
Rabbi
Next
Einsidler.
Today, I'm sorry.
Rabbi Einsidler.
Yeah.
My
Hi.
wife,
think it's Tu B'Shvat
every
today.
season,
It's not. You
My
don't know
wife-
what to be Shvat is?
I
would
know,
take me
but
to
I
Home
do
Depot.
not think Tu
Well,
B'Shvat is
What?
and
today.
I had to
No.
buy,
I don't
she would
think
always
it's
plant.
today.
Oh, she was a gardener.
Everything here is
I would
about
do
to be
my
Shvat.
terrace.
It's on Zoom.
Flowers, always,
Just always planted flowers
always planted.
every Tu B'Shvat.
Every
Yeah.
Tu B'Shvat?
I had to go buy dirt. I never heard of paying for dirt.
Oh, well, if you come this Saturday night at Toby's group, they're going to be planting.
I'm planting.
Yeah, tell them what the whole thing is.
I do the children's service Saturday night. So I found, I bought little pots. And I got some soil and I bought some seeds.
That's right.
And please God, we're gonna plant
What are
But she
you
grew up
planting?
in
What kind of seeds did you get?
flowers. I got flowers.
Oh.
Polly grew up in the country, and she had a backyard. And whenever I would see her, she was always in the backyard on her knees. She loved nature. Loved nature.
She used to plant on your terrace, huh? You used to plant tomatoes on your
Yeah.
terrace.
Terrace.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You should see it now. She one year she grew tomatoes.
Yeah, I know that.
Everybody run in and say, "Come, you got to see the tomato. It's getting big." She was so proud of it.
We all miss her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all
Okay, we're
for
good.
dedicating this to my late wife.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
She
And
was
Rabbi
very
Harold,
much beloved.
Rabbi Harold's going to continue the lecture for many, many years.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thanks,
Amen.
everyone.
Amen.
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 Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Bye everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
care.
Hi.
Good job, Papa.
Take care. Etty, how you doing? Esty.
I'm good. How are you?
I hope you're good.
Hi. There's hi.
Hi, everybody.
Where's
Bye,
Mosh?
Sarah.
Tell Mosh to come.
Is that the little girl I used to tease?
Yeah, where's Mosh? Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
Tell Mosh that tell him hi is here.
Mikey.
Oh, I got to see him.
Yeah, you gotta see
I
Mosh.
got to see Mushy.
How are you, Hi?
Okay. I'm in jail.
Oh.
Are you home or in the island? Hi.
New York. I'm in New York.
New York now.
Yeah.
There he is over there.
Hey, there's my boy.
How are you?
Let me see. There he is. School. How's school?
It's going. Good.
What?
It's good.
Good. Everything good, Mushy? I miss you.
I miss you too. Hope to be up there soon.
You taking care of them?
Yep.
Oh,
Good.
there's Dr. Weg.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Weg, how are
I'm
you?
waiting for you to come in,
Doctor's Weg.
Grandpa.
I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Hopefully soon, I. It's good seeing you, okay?
Baruch Hashem, we are well. How are
There
all
you
of you?
Okay, good. Now we hear you. Okay, good.
Oh, Jimmy.
Your granddaughter goes with Rivka's group,
Okay.
right? Dr. Weg, I think your granddaughter goes on with Rivka.
my granddaughter looks forward to Rivka.
Yeah.
Rivka is the center of her social life.
Oh, so glad. Hi.
Okay, good night, Toby.
Good night.
Person,
Good night.
but then again, considering her parents, that is no surprise whatsoever.
Thank you.
And we of course often say what wonderful contributions both you and the rabbi make to our community. May you have long life and good health.
Oh, amen. Thank you, all of
Thank
you.
you for everything you are doing in the
Oh,
street.
thank you.
Yes, and of course, at this time, of course, go back to one of the most wonderful people I have ever known, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
We
miss
miss
Polly.
her sorely because
Yeah.
she was a mainstay of what goodness and kindness is to amongst any Jewish community.
I'll tell you, she made me a better person.
Made us
And
all.
that was difficult.
Thanks. I didn't know you
She
could
was
talk.
also a miracle worker.
I tell the jokes around here, Alan.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, the joke with the bus.
I told you the one about the, I think I told it all to you. He's the rabbi, the president of the shul, and the chazan go on a trip to the jungle and they get caught. You heard it.
Oh, no, I didn't hear this one.
You got to tell the one I told you that's your favorite. Anyway, they get caught by a bunch of cannibals. And they start a big fire in a big pot. And they go to the rabbi and they said, Rabbi, we're not that evil. We're going to give you a chance to have your last wish. What's your before we eat you? Your last wish. Rabbi thinks and thinks, because I know what it is. My congregation never lets me give a sermon for a long time. They're always in a hurry. They want to go down to the Kiddush. They never let me express myself. I always have to hurry. I want to give a sermon that's going to last at least an hour. They grant him his wish. They go over to the cantor. What's your last wish? Like the rabbi, these people are terrible. They only want to go down to the Kiddush. They don't let me finish my beautiful music. I have to cut it short. I have so many melodies I want to sing. My last wish is I want to sing all my beautiful melodies for a couple of hours. They grant him his wish. They go over to the president of the shul. What's your last wish? He says, first. Eat me first. Nobody gets it?
They doesn't want to hear
All right, probably tell him the bus.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night. I'll see you in the morning.
Good night, wonderful people.
Take care.
Good
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.